Hey guys, Chip here. Thanks again for tuning in. It's great to have you back. Today I'm excited because we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a Sanchin arm thrust. We're going to be disassembling the thrust and looking at its basic components. We're going to put those under the microscope, and together we can zoom in and take the closest look possible to better understand what it is we're doing, and most importantly, why we're doing it. You see, when you understand why you're doing something, you're more likely to get greater value from it. And you'll hopefully have a better Sanchin because your thrusting and how you're doing it will be more congruent with the overall kata and its goals. Before we go any further, please let me say that there are many methods to doing the things that I'm sharing with you today, and by no means am I saying that this is the only one, nor is it the best one. There's many ways up the proverbial mountain, and I've gotten to where I am today by experimenting and trying and listening to other people, their opinions, and really playing with them and wrestling with them. And I think this is key to discovering what's the best method for you. So before we dive in, I think it would be helpful to briefly talk about what Sanchin is and what it is not in an effort to provide context for our discussion in just a moment. So when I think about Sanchin, to me, this is a fundamental, full-body, holistic training exercise. And this exercise is designed to develop and cultivate the proper mental attitude, the necessary physical skills and capabilities, and the necessary spiritual intentions that are required for real-world, high-level physical confrontation. And conversely, when we talk about what Sanchin is not, to me, I don't think Sanchin is about learning how to throw the fastest strikes possible. It's not a training exercise for a reverse punch, even though you're doing lots of them. Nor is it about learning how to be as strong or as immovable as possible. To me, I don't think these are the goals of Sanchin. When I think about Sanchin and coming up with an analogy for other people to understand, I think about an armored tank. Now, you can make a tank that's really fast and light. You can make a tank that's very heavy and well armored but slower. You can make a tank that has a lot of powerful offensive weapons on it. You could make a tank that did other things. Sanchin is the tank that is both well armored, has powerful cannons, has a great communication system, has a great radar system and technology and all the other things that'll make it a very well-rounded piece of equipment. I think this is a helpful way of thinking about what Sanchin is. So if your goal is to make the strongest cannon possible, well, you're probably better off not doing Sanchin and focusing on other things that'll help you make the most powerful weapon. Okay, so let's delve into the components of the arm thrust. Let's start with number one, which is the withdrawal. I'm now in Sanchin Kmai, and when I make my withdrawal, the primary theme or focus that I think about when doing this part of the technique is relaxing. And by relaxing, what I mean is using the smallest amount of muscular tension to allow me to make the movement and still maintain structure. So I don't want to be unnecessarily fast. I'm not looking to create power going backwards. I'm not imagining hitting something behind me. The withdrawal is done by bringing the lower part of your arm through the center line, and this implies occupying and defending this position, then withdrawing by pulling the elbow to the rear. I want to be high up on my ribs so that my lower arm is parallel with the floor. If I placed an object in my hand, it shouldn't fall off. It should also be one unit, so the fingers shouldn't be bent, the wrist shouldn't be bent, everything should be aligned. When I do this action, I think of pulling the string of a bow back that I was about to release to shoot an arrow. I want it to be smooth, but by no means is this the most aggressive or powerful action in the technique. I often think of loading the technique. Additionally, at this point, I'm pushing my hand into the side of my body. I want to be relaxed, but I don't want to be flimsy. Right before I start the next piece, I will relax this tension. While I do the withdrawal, the rest of my body remains completely still. I don't twist. I don't allow my other hand to move. I come through the middle and draw. It's important not to make more out of this than it is. So the key is relaxing and keeping our tension very low. Number two is the extension of the arm. This is the offensive capability of the strike. Now, if Sanchin were just about learning how to strike, frankly, I think there's better ways to do it. So Sanchin provides you an opportunity to manage the tension in your body and to offer the fastest, most powerful strike possible, but that comes with limitations. And those limitations are you have to do other things at the same time. And we all know humans aren't that great at multitasking. So while striking and trying to deliver as much force as possible, you have to remain rooted in your stance, and you must maintain proper tension and presence throughout the rest of your body. And that's the armor that we were talking about earlier when comparing Sanchin to the armored tank. So let's take a look at the extension. After I come through the middle and load, at this point, I want to be thinking about attacking with my entire body, because that's going to give me the weight and allow me to transfer the most energy upon contact. Now, in order to accelerate, I need to contract the appropriate muscle groups as quickly as possible and then immediately relax them so that my arm can hurl to the target, and then upon completion, I want to reactivate some of these muscle groups in order to deliver the weight of my entire body. So the goal is to use the arm to deliver the energy that we can pull from the floor through our body and then hopefully deliver out of our arm. Over, back, and now by thinking about initiating with the center, I thrust. At this point, my arm is slightly below parallel. So if you put an imaginary ball on the arm, it should roll down. This arm extending out into infinity will eventually hit the floor. Also, it's slightly inside my body line. So this arm, when extended properly, will over time cross the center of your body. So it's slightly below parallel and slightly inside the body line. Another important aspect is to ensure that you fully extend your arm so you don't strike with your shoulder back. You want to allow your scapula to relax so that you get the penetration that your arm affords you. And a helpful way to discover what that is to take both arms, take a deep breath, and then exhale as you stretch. This will ensure that you have symmetry and both arms are doing the same thing, that you're not leading with one side and pulling the other back, and it'll give you a sense of what it feels like, feeling being the operative word, to create this position and be fully extended. I'll do a few strikes for us. Now, breathing is a topic that is important to address. When breathing, there's typically two methods that are seen in Sanchin. The first is to breathe around the strike. That is, breathe before your arm moves and then after it finishes the technique. So it's usually done at the beginning and end of stepping. The other method is the opposite, which is to exhale on contact. So that would be, and This can also be very effective when striking. Just remember, the goal of Sanchin is not to create the fastest arm strike, but rather to develop the body and the mind and the intention in a holistic, full body way. So we have a contrast between the soft, relaxed withdrawal and the explosive, accelerating arm thrust. This reminds me of a funny story. The first time I visited Okinawa and I was performing for these grandmasters in our style of Uechi-ryu, I was told that my kata is always fast and always strong. And that was a head scratcher because I was thinking, I guess that's pretty good. But it was intended as constructive criticism because I lacked dynamics in my kata. I didn't demonstrate through my techniques how I was able to be soft or how I was able to turn down the tension. So sometimes I say to my students, you know, take that backpack full of metal off and put it on the floor and you'll be quicker. And what I'm trying to say to them is that sometimes, guys, you don't need that tension. It's just wasteful, it's unnecessary. And other times you do. So think of control knobs on a radio, or at least when radios used to have those circular knobs. We need to be masters at controlling muscular tension. How strong is the contraction and how long it lasts. Sometimes it's turned on and then shut off immediately, where it's just boom, boom, on, off, on, off. This is the key to being extremely quick. But again, upon completion of the strike, we have to re-engage the rest of our body so that we're hitting with our whole self and not just the arm. Because arm punches, although they're strong, they're not gonna compare to a technique that's done with the entire body. So food for thought. Now the third piece is the reset or the retraction. At the end of my Sanchin arm thrust, the theme I'm focusing on is moving slowly and applying dynamic tension to develop the strength in the muscle and tendons in my hand as well as in my body. This action is used to help time the contraction or wave of energy that travels through the body and is initiated at the fullest level upon completion of this action. And I'm really working my hands in form. So many masters in Okinawa, before doing anything else, when they're looking at your Sanchin, will come over and they'll check your wrists. And what they're doing is they're looking to see if you are applying one of the very first lessons in Sanchin, which is to control the tension in your hands. And if it's not there, you're probably going to be asked to tighten this up and show strength. When I begin the final component of the Sanchin arm thrust, I think about the elbow coming in and the hand turning over. I try to focus on moving more slowly because the idea is like you were grabbing a very powerful, thick elastic band and you had to pull it back into Sanchin. This is the idea with the final piece. You're pulling back, and even though your arm's moving, you're tensing the hand and tensing the forearm and tensing the rest of your body for the duration of this movement. Upon reaching the destination, my body's rebalanced and I distribute the tension equally. And then I begin my next strike. So let me do a few strikes for you with the retraction. Now, an exercise that I think is super for developing your Sanchin arm thrust is practicing with 5 sections. That looks like this. We come across through the middle, we withdraw. At this point, we focus on our center. We extend outward until the arm clears the body. So my elbow is no longer touching any part of my torso. From here, I extend out and rotate over, and then lastly, I finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagery is a very powerful tool, and it's something I highly encourage you to apply not only to your Sanchin arm thrusting, but to everything in the martial arts. So when I withdraw during this piece, I imagine pulling the string of a bow back and getting ready to release the arrow. When I extend, I often think of an arrow leaving the bow, or perhaps a rock leaving a slingshot or a catapult. I visualize a keel, a large fin coming out of the bottom of my arm so that I'm unable to move to the side, but rather I efficiently cut through the water. Boom. And at the end, I imagine that elastic that I'm pulling and getting stronger. And as I do it, I imagine being very rooted and balanced and not being pulled forward. This is an exercise I highly encourage you to explore if you're not doing it already. Studying Sanchin is an ongoing process of learning to balance tension in your body. So when to be strong, when to be soft, and how much. I wish it were as simple as black and white or 1 and 0, but it's not. These are fine-tuning skills that take a lot of time, a lot of internal exploration, and a lot of trial and error. So I encourage you to explore different methods, listen to people who have opposing views than your own, and experiment, practice, give it time, and really see what works best for you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation today, and I hope I left you with a few things to think about. If you'd like to share some of your own success strategies, please put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what's worked great for you and see if I can put it into my training. Until next time, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.